You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Well, Brian Kelly and the Tigers got their long-awaited defensive tackle transfer commitment. JVR Suggs from Grand Valley State. He picks the Tigers. Had a nice list of suitors. Michigan, Southern Cal, Wisconsin, Arkansas, Florida State, Kentucky. Some big-time programs. And LSU jumped in late in the mix, but got him on campus over the weekend and ultimately able to get his commitment. We've talked about the JVR Suggs news a bit here ever since LSU got in the mix, and certainly since they got him on campus last weekend and now with the commitment. So what is it? How did they end up at this point? What does it mean moving forward? We'll check some of these. First of all, it is never a bad thing to add experienced depth. I can't imagine a scenario where, unless if the player you were adding was a bad culture fit, that's about the only circumstance that I could imagine adding experienced depth would be a bad thing. So the JVR Suggs file kind of looks like this. He was a 2019 signee. So that was the class with John Emery and Cardell Thomas. I mean, it's been a minute. So he was a freshman at Grand Valley in 2019 and took a red shirt. The 2020 season was canceled due to COVID. Then 2021, his season ended before it began with an injury. So 3 years in college, didn't take a snap. And then in 2022 and 2023, he became a starter at Grand Valley State, and a pretty productive one. The numbers aren't going to burst off the page, but in 2022, had 21 tackles, 7 for loss, 3 sacks, handful of pass breakups, a forced fumble. This year, almost identical. 21 tackles, 7.5 for loss, 5 sacks. I mean, almost identical production. 4 pass breakups, a forced fumble. So, did all that in 11 games, by the way. So, you got a guy that's been productive, but it's fair to mention he was productive at a lower level in Division II. So, there's also some real strong ties to this program. As we all know, Brian Kelly won 2 national championships at Grand Valley State. That's where he got his first head coaching job. Brian Kelly's youngest son, Kenzel Kelly, is on the team at Grand Valley State. So he played with JVR Suggs last season. When JVR Suggs visited campus this weekend, Kelly's oldest son, Patrick Kelly, hosted Suggs on his visit. A lot of this you know because we've talked a lot about Suggs, but the other piece of it is he's from Flint, Michigan, went to Clarkston High School, which same high school as Garrett Dellinger. And when Suggs was a senior, Dellinger was a sophomore. They're 2 years apart, which also speaks to just how long Suggs has been in college. He's going into his 6th season now, obviously taking advantage of the COVID year and the medical redshirt year. So you got an older player, an experienced player, looking to take the leap up in competition to maybe see if he could better himself, show off for scouts, and that's something that's pretty common now in the portal era. I think one thing that is very important here, though, is we've got to temper expectations with this player. Because as we have talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks now, as Brian Kelly and this staff have been adamant that they wanted to pursue a defensive tackle, what they were pursuing was a plug-and-play starter. Brian Kelly, his own words, that they feel good about Jacobian Guillory as one of the starters, and they were looking for the other guy. You were looking for that with other starters in the portal. Philip Bleedy from Indiana, who picked Auburn ultimately. You zeroed in on Dominic Williams. We know the story there. He ends up at Oklahoma. I mean, you were going around looking for starting caliber interior defensive linemen, and you didn't find one. And so the point I've made is, do you really take a player just to take a body when you got plenty of bodies? And that's kind of the point that I'm making is temper your expectations, because I don't know that JVR Suggs comes in and is a guy that's competing to be a starter. I think he's competing to be part of a 4 or 5 man rotation. This is not Braden Fisk. This is not Jared Verse. Of course, Fisk came in from Western Michigan, and everybody knew when Braden Fisk came to Florida State that he was a plug-and-play guy and was going to be a dude. He's a guy everybody wanted. He was just an undersized dude when he went to Western Michigan, and when he got there, he continued to develop and became a dude. And you look at Jared Verse when he was at Albany, it's a similar thing with Verse because Verse had the statistics to back up the hype. In that 21 season at Albany, he had nearly double-digit sacks that season. It was 9.5 sacks he had in that season and 11.5 TFLs. So that was a dude that was a disruptor from the moment he stepped on campus at Albany, and he made the transition to the Power 5 level and did it very well. This is a very different scenario here with JVR Suggs. Again, I'm not trying to poo-poo it altogether. I'm just trying to say temper your expectations for this player. This is not someone that the day he steps on campus, you're plugging him in next to Jacoby and Guillory as an interior defensive lineman. The hope is that maybe what this does is make your fourth guy or your fifth guy in the rotation better. Here's what I mean. Last year, LSU used a 4-man rotation on the interior defensive lineman. Wingo, Smith, Jefferson, Guillory. Those are the 4 you used. In 2022, remember, they only used 3. Jaquelin Roy, Wingo, and Guillory. That was it, because Mason Smith got injured, and so you were knocked down to a 3-man rotation. In 2021, you had a 5-man rotation. Neil Farrell, Jaquelin Roy, Mason Smith as a freshman, Glenn Logan, and Jacoby and Guillory. That was your 5-man rotation. So in the last 3 years, we've seen 3, 4, and 5-man rotations from LSU. And the 3-man rotation was an outlier because Mason Smith got hurt. But really, you're looking at a 4 or 5-man rotation. Look at LSU's numbers right now as you kind of map it out. If you accept that Jacoby and Guillory is one of your starters and you're looking for 3 or 4 more, here's the bodies that you have. Jacoby and Guillory, Jalen Lee, Gio Paez, Sean Washington, JVR Suggs, Dominic McKinley, Preston Hickey, Demiron Johnson, Kimo Makaneoli. In no particular order. That's 9 names I just mentioned for you. You ain't putting 9 guys on the field. That's 9 names that I just mentioned for you at interior defensive tackle. If you're looking for a 4 or 5-man rotation, Guillory, Lee, Paez, Washington, those are the ones that seem to be standing out at the top. And then you got Dominic McKinley coming in, the 5-star, and then now Suggs coming in. That puts you at 6, which would knock out Kimo Makaneoli, Demiron Johnson, and Preston Hickey. It's unlikely you're going to use a 6-man rotation, but if you're looking at your 5th guy, are you now choosing between 5-star Dominic McKinley and 6th-year player JVR Suggs? That's a fair question to ask at this point. If you're looking at your top 4, however it may be, let's say it's Guillory, Lee, Washington, and Gio Paez is battling with Suggs and McKinley. Well, now you got a 3-man battle for that 4th spot. If someone gets injured, you obviously have more depth to step up. That's the way you have to approach this with JVR Suggs. It's not that you just signed a difference maker for your team. It's that you added a veteran depth piece that could be part of your rotation and maybe give you some snaps and makes you deeper if you suffer an injury somewhere along the way, which can happen, as we've seen. Mekhi Wingo got injured last year, missed November. Mason Smith 2 years ago missed the entire season. Injuries happen, especially on the interior of the line. So I don't know that this is the thing that should make LSU fans do backflips. As I've told you here before, as I was told, this wasn't a consensus take among the staff, that everybody in LSU staff wanted JVR Suggs. It was expressed to me that was not the case. So the hope is guy gets here, works really hard. Last year in college, he's actually got 2 years remaining of eligibility if he wants. He could stay at LSU for 2 years. So potentially maybe even a better option for 2025 than 2024 if he stays 2 seasons. But it's a guy that makes you older and deeper and more experienced at the defensive line spot and gives you options. And if he ends up hitting, then good for LSU. JVR Suggs, LSU lands their long sought-after interior defensive lineman. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.